Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Day in the Life panel of CAMP's 2022 Online Study Abroad Conference titled Now Boarding College. Special thanks to our sponsors: the Princeton Review Philippines, AUG Student Services, LIMS Review Center, Study International, and AIM Review Philippines. We would also like to acknowledge the presence of last year's camp president, Risa Chua. For this talk, we have our panelists here today to talk about how to determine the colleges that are the best fit for you. Our speakers will be sharing their day-to-day experiences as international students in their respective locations in order to give us insight into their lives and our futures in these destinations. Our first panelist is Anagha Chakravarti. Anagha is an incoming sophomore in Georgetown University's School of Foreign Service. Her major is international politics with a minor in international development. Originally from Delhi, India, Anagha has spent 10 years in Manila, Philippines, and graduated from International School Manila in 2021 with an IB diploma. Her passions and hobbies revolve around writing for a cause, mentoring students, playing badminton, and getting involved in activities surrounding international affairs. Our second panelist is Alex Manas. Alex is an incoming sophomore at UC Berkeley, intending to double major in data science and computer science. She is active in the Association of Women in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science organization and the Cal Women in Gaming Club. She is currently an academic intern for a computer science class where she tutors students. After college, she plans to be involved in a career focused on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Our third panelist is Emanuel Cruz, known to his family and peers as Cebo, a fresh graduate from Jacobs University in Bremen, Germany, where he majored in biochemistry and cell biology. Through the research-oriented curriculum at Jacobs, he was able to secure internships in the Vienna Biocenter in Austria and the University of Agriculture in Krakow, Poland, among others. He researched on host pathogen interactions of mycobacteria and eukaryotic cells for his bachelor's thesis, which motivated him to pursue infectious biology in the future. He will pursue his graduate studies in Ludwig Maximilian University, LMU, in Munich, through the Elite Master's Program in Human Biology. Our fourth panelist is Bella Alba. Bella is an incoming junior pursuing a degree in international relations at the University of Navarra. In the last 2 years, studying in Spain has shaped her personal development in becoming an independent person and has helped her form multiple connections from around the world. Bella is keen to collaborate with students who want to study abroad by sharing her experiences with others. Our fifth panelist is Chloe Salva. Chloe is a rising junior at the University of British Columbia, taking international economics. She is passionate about learning, and she is currently interning under the Shopee Apprentice Program in the Business Development Department. Chloe enjoys creative writing, going to the gym, and trying out different restaurants in Vancouver. Our sixth and final panelist is Tres Nocos. Tres is a first-year student at Waseda University in Tokyo, Japan. She is pursuing a degree in economics at the English degree program of the School of Political Science and Economics, or SPSE. She is also a core member of the Waseda Economics and Finance Forum and the SPSE Student Council. As a first-time international student and the only Filipina in her department, she looks forward to sharing her experiences with you. Thank you so much to our speakers for taking the time and effort to help Filipinos fulfill their study abroad dreams. You can turn on your camera. All right, thank you so much, speakers. Before we begin, please take note of some house rules for today's talk. Firstly, the panelists will first answer preset questions for 20 to 30 minutes. A 30-minute interactive Q&A will follow. You may direct your questions to some or all of the panelists. Please type your questions on the Q&A chat box at the bottom of your screen. The moderators will select which questions the speakers will entertain based on the relevance to the topic. Our panelists will be speaking in the following order all throughout the talk: Anagha, Alex, Cebo, Bella, Chloe, and Tres. Due to time constraints, not every panelist will answer every question. For some questions, specific panelists will be mentioned. For others, they will generally be asked to the entire panel. Panelists may opt to raise their hand if they would like to answer and they were not called to answer the question, or if the question was not directed towards specific panelists and was asked to all of the panelists. Lastly, feel free to take pictures and share your camp conference experience. Make sure to follow and tag us through our social media platforms. With that, our Q&A will now begin. Again, the speaker order is as follows: Anagha, Alex, Cebo, Bella, Chloe, and Tress. Okay, so firstly, again, I wanted to thank our speakers for being here today. I'm sure they have so much to share with all of us, and we're very eager to hear about your insight as international students studying abroad. So the first question, which can be answered by any of the panelists, simply raise your hand if you would like to answer. What does your schedule typically look like as an international student? Aside from classes, what other commitments take up your time?
So I can start with this. So typically my schedule during the week, I usually have 2 to 3 classes every day at Georgetown University. So usually in the mornings, I will have a morning class. So I'll have my breakfast and I'll go to my morning class. And then after that, I will find some time to study before my lunch. And then I'll have an evening/afternoon class. And then right after that, I usually eat dinner. And then after that, I have club meetings. And then I'm studying into the night. So that's usually what my everyday schedule looks like during the week. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I can go next. So my schedule is almost the same, but I wake up late. I wake up around like 11 or 10 a.m. because my classes are in the afternoon. I have a lot of I have a lot of free time because most of my lectures are recorded, so I get to like watch them in my dorm, or I go to the library to watch them, and I also do my homework in the library. On some days I have some labs, so that's when I go to class. Um, and at night, I have some club meetings, or sometimes I have free time, or I study if I have like a midterm or homework. Or yeah.
I think I'll go next, but yeah, my schedule is similar to that of Alex and Anagha. But like in Germany, we never really went full on like hybrid. Like we actually always had in-person classes even during the height of the pandemic. So my schedule was pretty much really waking up early, and studying in Germany, you really have to learn German. So that would fill up my night classes. So really the classes are quite long. But I think the difference in college is that we tend to like choose our classes. So usually you have full days, and some days we have no classes at all, or we just have 1 or 2 classes. And our nights are usually full of work, like to earn for our part-time job, through our part-time jobs to help us fund our studies. So yeah, that's how it goes for us here in Germany.
The next panelist to answer will be Bella.
For this question, right? All right.
Yes.
So sorry. My day usually it depends. Like considering this semester, most of my classes were in the morning, and I usually have 2, 3 classes every day. And if I have classes in the morning, I usually stay in the uni till 1 p.m. In Spain, you don't really get to choose, so you really have to just work with the schedule that you have and that's given to you. At least in my university. And from there, from my morning classes, I stay till 1 p.m. I eat lunch with my friends, or I go home and make my own lunch. And at home, I rest, I take a siesta, as that's the culture there. And I continue doing my studies with my friends. I always go out with my friends in the park. We study there as well. So it's pretty much similar to everything.
Can go next on this one. So for me, for context, the Bachelor of International Economics actually has kind of like a fixed schedule. So you have to really choose the subjects that are given to you, and you can't really do anything about those specific classes. But luckily for me, most of them are in the late morning to afternoon. So usually a day in my life would be to exercise twice a week in the morning, and then I would usually have lunch at home, or because my building is quite near to my apartment, so I just walk home and eat lunch, and then for the rest of the day, just I would usually just stay in the library or just go to school and just stay somewhere else while waiting. Then at night, I'd plan and prep for the meals since I cook for myself every day. So that's usually the life there. It's pretty chill in Vancouver.
For me, since Japan opened their borders only this year, majority of my freshman year in college has been online. Actually, I've been here only for like exactly 2 months today, so I'm still adjusting to the real university life now that I'm here. But before I came to Japan, a normal day of class for me would usually start at 8 a.m. Manila time and it would end at 5 p.m. And most of the classes were obviously on Zoom or on-demand lectures. But of course, that changed when I came here because I finally had my very first on-campus class after 2 years. And I was only able to register for one on-campus class this semester. So that happens every Monday, and I usually start my day by taking my time in the morning. I go to the gym or the grocery because I don't have classes in the morning on Mondays. Then I grab lunch from one of the many convenience stores near my dorm because in Japan they have that everywhere. Then I catch the train going to campus in the afternoon, and if I'm not too tired, ideally I study in the library before going to dinner with my friends if we're not too busy. But the rest of the week, I just usually stay in my dorm majority of the day because I have a whole day of online classes. And I also have some classes on Saturdays for Japanese language. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Tress, and to all of our panelists for answering that question. The next question can be answered by any panelist who applied to multiple universities or if those multiple universities were in different locations. So, what factors did you consider when assessing the fit of the colleges you applied to? We can have Anagha go first, and if anyone wants to answer as well, they can again raise their hands.
Sure. So I can start. So when it came to assessing the fit of my university, so I applied to I applied to some colleges in the UK, some in Singapore, and then the US, so East Coast and West Coast. And when it came to fit, for me, the first most important factor was the academic opportunities. So did the university have the major or the field of major that I was interested in, and were they flexible with allowing me to explore my options? So with that in mind, I shifted away from the UK and started looking more into the US, because in the UK you kind of start your major right away. There's not as much exploring that happens in your first and second year, and that's what I was looking for. So apart from academics was also location. So as an international student, I had never been to the US before I left the Philippines for college, and so I wanted a more international city, and so DC was perfect for that. It was also not too big, and it had the perfect city life. I was looking for a city life as well, so I didn't apply to too many schools that were kind of in a more outdoor type location, because that location mattered to me. Another thing with location was the weather. I had never seen snow or fall before college, and so I was trying to pick a place that wouldn't be so overwhelming in terms of the weather for my first year. And so because of that, DC was perfect in terms of weather. I wasn't used to seasons at all, but DC is really good in that you can really adjust as the seasons come, and none of the weathers are too extreme. And then the last thing I'll mention for now is the social life scene. That was a big factor that determined my fit. Does the college prioritize extracurriculars? Do they have a lot of cultural clubs on campus? And that's very much something that's really common in the US. And particularly Georgetown skews its extracurriculars towards more international relations type of activities, like debate, mock trial, advocacy related activities, which is what surrounded my interests. And then Another thing about Georgetown is that they do not recognize Greek life. And so I felt that it'd be better for me because it's a more inclusive atmosphere. People are just kind of doing their own thing. You don't feel like you're excluded if you're not part of something. So those really just made the fit so much better for me. So yeah.
Thank you, Anagha. Would any of the other speakers like to answer? Again, the question is, what factors did you consider when assessing the fit of the colleges you applied to? Yeah, we can have Cebo.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything Anagha said because like the program is really what you're looking for. You really have to study the programs that you apply to, and not, of course, only the programs, but also about the future, the employability after you finish your degree, because that's a major factor for people taking, I mean, biochemistry and cell biology. That's my major. I think I also could relate to the other speakers here. But I think one major factor, and I speak for a lot of students, is finances, because believe it or not, it's really difficult and it's quite expensive to study abroad. But in Germany, I mean, aside from my university, because it's a private university, all universities are for free. There's no tuition fee because they believe that education is a public good. And I think that's a really good concept. But even though my university required tuition fees, it was very affordable because we were allowed to get a loan, a student loan, which we could pay for if we earn a certain amount, a certain salary. And I think that's a really good option. So really check the finances if you're checking for universities. And aside from that, the location was also a big factor because if I study in Europe, I don't know if the others know about this, but it really opens you up to a lot of opportunities in the EU, a lot of scholarships, a lot of internships, a lot of future graduate study opportunities. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Cebo. Would any of the other panelists like to answer? Yeah, we could have Chloe.
Okay, yeah, I really agree with what Cebo and Anagha said. I really agree with the weather because for me, I applied to a really wide range of schools. So I applied to schools in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Canada. And I was really deciding between UBC and U of T, University of Toronto. And the thing that made me choose UBC over the other school was the weather and how far it is from the Philippines. Because for U of T, it's like you could experience negative 40 degrees in winter, and it's also like a longer plane flight. So that's actually a factor that you could consider, especially since if you want your parents to visit you or to have people meet up with you, it's quite far as well. And also what drew me to UBC was the course. So for context, the International Economics program is, according to the school, is the #1 economics program in Canada. So that really drew me because having the ranking of your course helps you decide where you're going to grow more and how much the school is also going to support you as well academically, because we're only 100 in this course, so that's you will be a smaller faculty, but that will really help you gain more networking experiences and also help you get to know more people from different countries. Since it's a very diverse cohort as well. So those are the main features. And also what Cebo said about the finances, UBC also has a lot of scholarship opportunities. And once you apply to the university, everyone is automatically considered for a scholarship. So that is also a factor that many of you could also consider when applying to UBC as well.
Thank you so much, Chloe. And with that, I think we can move on to the next question, unless anyone else has any final words. Okay, so the next question is, why did you decide to attend your chosen university? If possible, you can talk about this from the standpoint of an applicant or a graduating senior. So with the fact in mind that you hadn't attended that university yet, likely had not stepped foot in it, why did you choose to make that decision? I think we can start with the people who did not answer the last question. And then if Cebo, Chloe, or Anagha would like to answer, you can. So we can start with Alex.
Yeah, so I mostly chose Berkeley because of my major. So I was originally a business major, and Berkeley is like really known for STEM and business. So I chose Berkeley because it's like really known for that, and also because Berkeley also gives like the opportunity to change majors. So in the College of Letters and Science, you actually come as undeclared. So that means like you don't have a major, and you declare your major in the end of your second year. And I really like that because it gave me like the freedom to explore my interests. And because of that, I actually found out I didn't want to pursue business anymore, and I became a data science and computer science double major after like taking different classes. So I really like that about Berkeley, is like you're not bound to like a specific major. And again, location. I think that's like really important because I've actually been to California already, so I like the familiarity. It will just help me adjust better. Will make me feel like less I won't feel as homesick because I'm already familiar with the surroundings. And again, the weather is like really nice in California. Like it doesn't get too cold, doesn't get too hot. You can wear like a light sweater, you can wear jeans or shorts, depending on how cold you get. And I really like that. Berkeley is also really near to Silicon Valley, so I do want to like work there one day. So I feel like its proximity to Silicon Valley will like definitely help me a lot. I also feel like diversity is a really important aspect. So Berkeley is like really diverse. And before coming to Berkeley, I saw like there's like many Filipino clubs. So again, it will help with homesickness. And yeah, also like meeting people of different walks of life. I was like really excited for that. And yeah, that's what made me choose my college.
Thank you so much, Alex. Next, we can have Tress, followed by Bella.
So for me, I only really applied to Japanese universities because that was the only option for me in terms of studying abroad because the US or Europe was too far for my mom's comfort. So I only looked at Japanese universities, and it's also because I always go to Japan every year because of my dad's work. So I know the place pretty well and I love Japan. And even though I did not know how to speak Japanese at all before I applied, I was down for the challenge. And so the first thing I evaluated when looking at these universities was how good their international program is and if it's really international student friendly. So when I visited Waseda a couple of years ago, I remember that the admission staff member was very welcoming. They sat down with me and showed me all the brochures and explained all the international programs that they offer. So I guess first impressions are really important, and that experience made Waseda stand out to me as opposed to the other universities I visited. And in terms of applications, I did not study IB, nor did I apply with an SAT score because during the application period, COVID was still kind of bad. So my slots kept getting canceled for the tests. So Waseda allowed us to use our math scores to apply. So I guess you also have to consider the flexibility factor so you can make sure if there are any barriers to your application because I wasn't able to apply to some other universities in Japan because I couldn't take the SAT in time. And that also contributed a lot to why I chose Waseda, aside from the fact that their econ program is well known.
Okay, for my part, to be honest, I didn't really know what I was doing when I applied to UNAV. I was living in New Zealand at the time and I graduated in Auckland. So I had the choice to actually study in Auckland University because of my credits and I already knew the system. But I really wanted something out of the Australian continent because it was so, New Zealand's very small. So I know studying in Auckland wouldn't make me experience all the internationalization that I experience now in Spain. I really looked at the location and I've been to Spain once, but I've actually never been to Pamplona before I actually came there on my first day, on my first year. So I literally just like kind of blindfold myself. Yeah, let's just go to Spain. But I really got drawn into the curriculum of my degree. I study international relations, and what really drew me is the internationalization of the university. They have a lot of exchange students, they have a lot of exchange programs. My degree particularly offers a trip every year, focusing on a certain region. So let's say for this year, I was supposed to go to Shanghai because we were studying international relations in Asia, but instead we went to Geneva and Brussels, and that's already part of the tuition fee, which is kind of like really, it's a good way to get people in, and I really enjoyed the the variety of my courses, of my subjects. So it's international relations, very broad. So I study a bit of law, a bit of history, a bit of economics. So it was really good. That's what I really looked at, the curriculum. I didn't really recognize that Pamplona was a small city, but other than that, it was really good. And the student population was one of the other things too. I didn't want to be in a university where I had like, I don't know, 10 classmates. That one I really can't do because I'm such a social person. I love meeting people. I love meeting international people, especially. So I really had to consider that going either to UNAV and Auckland. So I ended up in UNAV, and that's really why I chose it. And it was a really good stepping stone. Really, I really enjoy my life in Spain.
Great. Thank you so much, Bella, and to all of the other panelists for answering that question. The next question can be answered by any panelist. Just raise your hand if you want to answer. What is student life like at your university? What factors contribute to it? So, for example, Greek life, cultural clubs, associations, events, etc. And if you want to share what specific factors contribute to your life as a student on campus, then you can feel free to do so.
Okay, so I can start. It's kind of adding on to some of the aspects I talked about before. So since Georgetown does not like officially recognize Greek life does not dominate our scene at all. But there still is Greek life if that's like what you are looking for. But other than that, there are a lot of cultural clubs that host events. The International Relations Club really dominates our campus, which is one reason I chose it. There are a lot of sports as well, even though like I would not say Georgetown is very much of a sports school. There's Division 1 sports, there's a lot of club sports as well. Personally, I got involved with badminton my first semester, a lot of like Model UN as well, and writing for publications on campus. There's also a gym on campus, like fitness, like dance classes and yoga and meditation, something like that students can get involved with. Other than extracurriculars on campus, a lot of students also do jobs either on campus or off campus or internships as well. Other than that, Georgetown brings a lot of like guest speakers over every week. Really cool people. Like last semester, Hillary Clinton was on our campus as well as Elizabeth Warren, among others. And Anthony Blinken was like the commencement speaker for the graduating class. So there's always opportunities to meet great people and talk to like great people in the field of not only international relations, but all kinds like journalism and business as well. So those are some of the aspects that contribute to student life on campus. And the biggest highlight I would say is Georgetown Day, which is the final day before exams, and that's when all students can just like celebrate the end of the school year. So that was a highlight for me.
Thank you, Anagha. Would any of the other panelists like to answer? I can also restate the question if need be.
I think I could go next, but yeah. So in Germany, well, in my school, university, I think almost all of the students live on campus. So it's a small university where I study. It's around 2,000 students, and most of them, if not 99% of them, live on campus. So our it's still a small population, but pretty big if you put it in one university. So our student life is really rich because we really compact 120 students from 120 countries into one university. So just like what Anagha said, it's a lot of clubs for different countries. There's the African Society Club, the Asian Society Club. There's also, I think everything that Anagha said was also what we have on campus. A lot of sports club. We really pride ourselves with our rowing team because we have a room where you could really practice rowing among other sports. And I think one thing that really makes my university unique, I mean, German universities in general, is the party scene. And that's because we have our own club on campus, and we have free beer also, free alcohol for every Friday. But aside from the party, it's also a source of employment for many of the students. So the party scene is also where we get waiters, where we get the servers, the bartenders, and it's also a full-time paying job for us. And that's one good source of income. So Yeah, that's a student life. And of course, there's also student government, which I could say for each university. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cebo. Would any of the other panelists like to answer? Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, so in Berkeley, there's also lots of cultural clubs. So I remember they had like an Asian night market, and like basically all like the cultural clubs sold food from their like country, and that was really cool. There's also like cultural performances, and yeah. Another thing is there's like lots of big games. I personally haven't been to one, but there's like probably uh two or three games like every month. Um, Another thing is Cal Day. So that's like a really big thing like for the incoming freshmen, but of course like current students are welcome to join. So like there's lots of clubs tabling, there's lots of events, and it gets really packed. And it's like there's like they even put like amusement park like activities there where you can do like I think there's like I remember there's like a bouncy house or something. And yeah, it was really fun. Another thing, there's also like lots of concerts that happen. So I think there's been like rappers, I think his name is Smino, who came to campus one time and they're like completely free. And I think Laney and Rex Orange County are coming to campus soon. So yeah, if you want to go to a concert, there's like lots in Berkeley and it's like pretty safe since it's like near campus. It's in campus. And yeah.
Thank you very much, Alex. Would any of the other speakers like to answer? We can have Chloe next.
Okay. So UBC is quite similar to what Alex described. So the student life there's very because UBC is at the edge of Vancouver. So it's like you're living in your own gated community subdivision because it has its own bus stop, has its own like all the some buses are end there. So it's you're kind of surrounded with the same people and the same community. So it feels like you're living in a village with all like university students. And UBC has over around 300 clubs led by students. So any club that you could think of on the top of your head, it's probably inside UBC. And also what comprises student life is the community itself. You can just see people everywhere around school and even around we have a place called Westbrook Village where people live in outside of a 5 minute bus around school, and you just see students everywhere. It's a very safe and secure student life there. What annual event called Storm the Wall. So it's you kind of have a team, and then some person will run, swim, and bike, and then at the end, the whole group will try to climb a 9 foot wall together. That's why you're storming the wall. And we also have this thing called the snowball fight. So every winter when there's a lot of snow, people will gather around the main strip of campus and will throw snowballs at each other. So overall, you can just feel like there's a sense of community, even because of the location and the people as well, because people are quite warm and friendly in UBC. So it's pretty fun in UBC. And we also have a lot of concerts. So last time we had Olivia Rodrigo, Avril Lavigne, and then we have Love this September. So since we have a Thunderbirds Sports Stadium, lots of celebrities and bands also perform. So that kind of helps to amp up our student life as well.
Thank you very much, Chloe. With that, I think we can move on to the next question. So the next question is, are there things about your university that you dislike? For example, do you feel unsafe or discriminated against? This is a really common question we get as Filipinos who are aiming to study abroad. So we can have, I think we can have Bella start and then Tress.
Okay, anything I dislike about the uni that I'm in is literally just the location. The city where it's at, the city is really small. There's probably like 200,000 inhabitants there, and it's the population is literally like either old people or young families. So the university, UNAV, and the other public university there actually fill in the gap between those ages. And but I really like it. It's super, there's a lot of nature, there's a lot of parks, it's fresh air, and it's pretty safe. Um about the discrimination with Asians, I experienced once or twice with my professor, but it's not so bad, I think, because it's the Spanish people don't really mind the Asians. They just have this look. They're like, oh, you're from there. Especially with COVID, I'm actually really surprised because I came during the first parts of the pandemic, in October 2020, because we all had to be there. We all had to be forced to do face-to-face classes, and I'm actually really surprised I haven't really had anyone say, "Oh, anyone go actually up to me." But sometimes there are people who go, um, they're a little unaware. They're just unaware, really, and they don't know. Let's say I'm from the Philippines. I tell them that, and they're like, "Oh no, you look Korean," and they're like, "Oh no, what's the Philippines?" And this is like a Spanish person talking to me, and I'm like, You don't know the Philippines? What's your colony? You just have sometimes you just have to swallow your pride and not really like, how dare you not know? But it happens everywhere. Even when I lived in New Zealand, it was more or less the same thing. Why is your English so well? Why do you speak English so well? Or how come we don't know anything about your country? So you have to kind of expect that when you're abroad, because not everyone knows the same thing as you do. Not everyone knows at least the Philippines the way we do. So you just have to just like, oh yeah, the Philippines is here. It's an island. You just have to explain to them very kindly, really. So that's really it.
Thank you very much, Bella. We can have Jess next.
So for me, I noticed there's a divide between the Japanese and the international students because even though it's an international school, majority of the people are still Japanese and they don't know how to speak English and they're shy to speak to foreigners. So yeah, I think our school is trying to bridge the gap through different support systems for Japanese language, for example, and for those whose first language isn't English, they also have an English language support and even weekly chat clubs for those who want to learn either language. So people gather in one room and have lunch together to practice their Japanese or English with each other. And it's also my first time in an international setting, so it was very new to me. I'm the only Filipino in my course. I was hoping there would be another one, but really there's none. So what I did was I tried to make friends with um people of nationalities where they didn't have like other people in that nationality also. So my best friend is Thai, and she's also the only Thai in the course. So that's how we became very close to each other because I in my school all of the Japanese stick together, all the Chinese stick together, all the Koreans stick together. So you really need to find people you're comfortable with and try to find people with similar backgrounds so you have someone to relate to and so you have an easier time adjusting because you're not alone. So I think that's very important when in terms of social life in college you need to find people of the same wavelength or people you can be comfortable with and relate to.
Thank you, Tress. Next, we can have Anagha answer the question.
Sure. So I'll be speaking on like my university, Georgetown, but also it can be applied to other like US universities. So Georgetown could be better like in terms of their diversity. So like their rate of like international students could definitely like be higher. It is predominantly like majority is like white people or people who have been born and lived in America all their life. But what really helped me is to kind of participate in activities and like branch out so I can meet all kinds of people. And since then, it has not really been too much of an issue. Also because DC is a very diverse city as it is. On campus, we have like the International Students Association, and then, like I mentioned, other cultural groups like the Asian American Club or the South Asian Society, where you can really meet other people, but at the same time, they're very inclusive. So it's not only for people who are South Asian, for example. It can be for anyone. And just other than that, being an international student, there are like different rules that apply to you in general, having to do with like your visa status or like when you're allowed to get a job, where you can apply for jobs. And sometimes it can feel almost like a little hard because your other American friends are doing other things, which it's a little bit easier for them maybe in some ways. But I think it's just about recognizing like the beauty in like having outside of America experience, at least for me. And I've not found that there are too many cliques in my campus. It's not like if people are from one background, they usually stick together. It's nothing like that. It's good to have that, but then not only constrain yourself to that. I think everyone has a good understanding about that. Something else that has been kind of an issue for me in my freshman year is in terms of like holidays, for our long breaks, like winter and summer, Georgetown closes like really quickly. And for some international students who don't really have somewhere to go like right away, or like because of flights, they maybe have to stay one extra day on campus. It's like really hard because then you end up kind of almost being stranded, or you need to like find somewhere to live or like spend extra money the 1 or 2 days you're hanging around. So they basically close dorms really quickly at the start of long breaks. The shorter breaks, they keep campus open, which is a good thing, but the services are not as ideal. So that's one thing that I dislike. And then a few other things, the dining hall hours are sometimes a little iffy. Like after 10 p.m., it's really hard to find food on campus, which is like a bad thing because everyone's studying into the night. There's like one cafe that's open, but that's it. And one thing I found is that the administration doesn't always respond to students' concerns as well. I know there are other universities in America that is known for their student life really protesting and like demanding for accountability. Georgetown could be better in that realm, and like the bridge between students and administration could be better. So those are some of the aspects.
All right, thank you, panelists. We really appreciate your honest answers. I think it's really important for students to consider some things. The next question is club culture strong at your university? Meaning people like associate mostly with their clubs or orgs, and people are incentivized to join organizations because of social exclusion and other factors. So how do you feel about that, if it is or is not a huge thing on your campus? We can have so do any of the speakers want to go first? If not, I'll just call a couple.
Yeah, I can say something about it. In UNAV, actually, there's not a lot of clubs in the university. There are, but it's kind of old school in promoting it. They usually do it word of mouth, which is very different compared to the other universities that are here in this event. But it is encouraged, and you actually earn credits for being part of it. So one of which is the Sustainability Club, and they have also like excursions with the innovations, with economics, and they do it for faculty. Sometimes there's a specific club per faculty. So if you're in the Faculty of Law, there are certain clubs to join a mock-up court, do case studies, and actually sometimes you can even be it's called the alumna internal, which is like an internal alumni working with the professor, and you can earn credits for that. But it's not as strong, which is kind of sad, but it's also okay, I guess, because the only really club culture there is really outside the university that's known in Spain, the party culture. And it's also, I guess, it's a way for students to really interact with each other, because the clubs are not that strong compared to, let's say, UBC or maybe Georgetown. But you can still join, and I mean, nobody really associates with each other like, oh, I'm from this club. It's not really like that there.
Thank you very much, Bella. Next we can have Alex.
Yeah, so I think club culture in Berkeley, there are like lots of clubs in Berkeley. So like every day I always see clubs tabling like by the entrance. And especially like during the first few days of the semester, like it gets really crazy. Like everyone's like giving you flyers to apply. And yeah, there's also like a bunch of different kinds of clubs. So there's like professional clubs, volunteer, interest, um, health clubs, and yeah, like any club that will fit your interest, like that will fit your interest will be there at Berkeley. I feel like club culture, like no one's pressured to join a club, but since Berkeley is such a big school, it is much easier to make friends at clubs because you won't really meet people. It's pretty hard to meet people in your classes. Those classes are really big. So yeah, clubs are a great way to like make friends. Another thing is it's a bit hard to get in some clubs in Berkeley, especially like the professional clubs. Like I applied to some computer science clubs and consulting clubs, and I didn't get into any of them. But for like the interest clubs, they accept everyone, and you'll probably find a club that like fits.
Thank you so much, Alex. With that, we can move on to the next question. This question can be answered by all of the speakers. So, what unique aspects of your university are the most impactful in your life? For example, if your university is uniquely proximate to work districts, or if your university is like in the mountains, something like that, you would have unique recreational activities. We can go in the aforementioned order. So, Anagha can start first.
Sure. So one thing that's distinct about Georgetown that really drew me to it is that there's a specific college within Georgetown University for Foreign Service and International Affairs. So I'm in the School of Foreign Service, so that's pretty unique in my opinion. Usually there's like college of like letters and arts or something, but this one is very specifically tailored to foreign service and international affairs. So that was a big like drawing factor for me, because I also know that there's a lot of resources put towards the programs in the SFS. So that's one thing. Within that also, there is something else that's like unique about Georgetown is that in the SFS, you have to achieve proficiency in a second language. Also because it generally really helps if you're fluent in more than one language, if you want to study like that realm of subjects. So I'm having to like pursue learning French, and sometimes even though it's like challenging and not easy at all to learn a new language, I'm grateful that I'm having to like set this path and like have this objective of gaining proficiency in a very international language like French. So that's very exciting. So that's one. And another unique factor is, in my opinion, like the city life and the work opportunities that DC offers in every field possible, but particularly in my field of interest. I think that the DC area is quite unmatched to other locations around the US. And if you're an American citizen, for example, there are lots of opportunities. If you're an F1 international student, I've learned that it's definitely much harder to like find internships that will accept us, and a lot more research goes into that. But either way, I know I'm in a good location where there are opportunities. So that would be another thing as well. And lastly, another thing about Georgetown is that it's a Jesuit institution, so it has a lot of those values that revolve around that, but by no means is it like a religious institution. In fact, it's mandatory for freshmen to take one theology religion class, but it's a very open-ended course where you learn about all kinds of religions. And I have personally found that very enlightening. And there's also campus ministry with a full-time like a priest and a full-time like person of every religion basically that you can talk to and confide in and find your own like religious like, spiritual group that way. So those are like some of the unique aspects.
For me, I think a unique aspect that's most impactful to me are like the proximity to like restaurants. Because honestly, the dining hall food is like not the best. So I usually order food from restaurants. So we have this thing called Asian Ghetto. So that's where I get all my Asian food. Like there's so much Asian restaurants, so much variety. I don't get tired of like one cuisine. Um, Another thing is the proximity and my access to San Francisco. So on the weekends, I go there with my friends sometimes, and it's like really fun just to go explore the city, especially since I'm there. And another thing is Berkeley's proximity to Silicon Valley. Um, I haven't applied to any internships yet, but I do believe there are like lots of open internships in Silicon Valley, because I do want to work there one day. And yeah.
Yeah. I think so studying in Jacobs, I think some of the unique aspects of studying there is also the proximity, but in terms of proximity to other countries. So in Bremen, where I study, it's like um an hour away from Amsterdam, and then another 3 hours away from Copenhagen in Denmark. And then, if you may not know, actually traveling in Europe is quite cheap if you know where to get the free flights. But like, some of my friends and I traveled, for example, to Milan for just €9, and that's around 540 pesos. And that's already round trip because there was a promo. So like traveling in Europe is actually pretty cheap, but that also means it's actually pretty easy to get internships here and go to your internships and just go back to Bremen. And studying in Europe, you also get the Erasmus funding. So if you want to do an internship during your summer, for example, you can really get funded for that and your living expenses are covered for. And that was really a big help for me because I didn't know where to go during the height of the pandemic. So I was like, oh no, where will I go? Ah. So I'll just go to another country and then get funding, do an internship. So I gained experience, fully funded. And then I think that was a really good thing. And another thing that's unique about my university is that there's no limit to the amount of courses you can take. So you can take French, German, and Spanish if you want all together. And in Germany, I mean, where I study, you only need 3 years worth of credits. So that's 180 credits. But I mean, if you can study whatever and like how much you want, some of my friends studied 240 credits worth. So they studied 4 years of college in 3 years, and they got into master's programs that only require like 4 years of college. But because of that opportunity, they were able to, go to those master programs. And I think the last aspect that's also unique is internationality. So because we have 120 students from 120 nations coming, we can just ask each person from different countries, how can I get an opportunity for a career in your country? Like it's very easy. We're very connected. So yeah.
So there are two things I personally think that are very unique to Una. One is the location. Um, the location, even if I don't like it because it's a small city, but if you look at it in the map, it's up north of Spain where the mountains are. It's a very historical area. Actually, now it's the famous festival of the running of the bulls. So it's known for that. And not only that, but because of the location, you get to travel anywhere, just like as Salva said. When you're in Europe, there's free movement of people. You can go anywhere for a cheap price. There are times where almost every month that I go to Madrid, or let's say I go to France, because it's just over there, and that I think really affects my daily life, because I know I can't do that here in the Philippines. I can't just go to Hong Kong or something. But yeah, and it's really fun. It's amazing, the experience. And another thing about what's very unique about my university is that there's actually no full English programs. I study a bilingual degree, and actually international relations is the most English degree in the whole university. But because of that, they really not really force, but it really pushes you to learn the Spanish language. And because Pamplona is so small in population, you really live the local life of a Spaniard in the Basque country, and it immerses you to the culture, to the food and everything. So that's what I really love about UNAV.
I think for me, there are three things that are really unique about UBC. So the first one is the location. So if you look at it on the map and you Google Vancouver, you'll really see UBC like secluded from like the rest of the city. But it doesn't mean that you can't really go to different places. It's just more secluded. So when you're in UBC, you feel like you're really safe and secure. So you can walk walk home at night and not be scared if someone's following you, because everyone else is literally like students and like families who live on campus. So that's really something that was really unique to me. The second one is community. So for me, what really helped me adjust the university was having the Filipino Student Association. So it's called UBC Kababayan. So having those friends and also my friends from high school come to the same university as me really helped me adjust and um gave me an opportunity to meet more people through my other friend that we had in common. So that really helped a lot. And lastly is the flexibility of the university. So UBC isn't as strict, like just because you're taking econ, you can only take econ subjects. They really want you to grow and learn from different fields, because their motto is tum est, it is yours. It's how you're gonna plan your degree. So for example, for me, I really enjoy creative writing. I've taken a lot of creative writing electives because I want to grow more as a writer. So it's really free and it's yours. It's how you're gonna take hold of your degree. So those are my top three things that are really unique to the campus that really helped me grow as a person.
So for me, luckily since Waseda is kinda in the center of Tokyo, transportation is also very convenient, especially for me because my dorm is not exactly near campus. But since there's a tram near school that goes straight to the station near my dorm, it only takes about like 15 to 20 minutes for me to go to school. And Waseda is also near a lot of commercial centers, so there are lots of good restaurants and places to go to after school for necessities like bank and grocery shopping, so it's very convenient for students. And a lot of students here do part-time jobs in cafes or restaurants near Waseda, so the location factor really helps. And a few years before I applied, I got to visit the campus from an outsider's perspective. What attracted me was the balance between nature and the urbanness of the campus, because it was really nice to walk around and sometimes you forget that you're in the city. And Waseda also has a lot of little museums and cafes and parks within the campus. So I like to explore these places when I need a break. And in terms of academics, we are also required to learn Japanese because without knowing how to converse, we really wouldn't be able to survive here. But Waseda tries to make it fun by offering different kinds of courses for learning Japanese, like learning Japanese through reading stories or learning Japanese through social media. So I think Waseda Center for Japanese Education is really unique compared to other Japanese universities.
Thank you so much to all the panelists for answering that question. We have our final question for the panel today. The question is, as somebody who is currently in college, what are the main factors that you advise prospective students to consider when assessing what university is the best fit for them? We can do everyone have to answer this question.
One thing I would say is, in addition to what we all covered, is just like how friendly it would be to international students. So this would also have to do with if you're looking for scholarships, financial aid, like how much they care for their international students, what proportion of their population is international, because that really will determine how much support you have when it comes to like day-to-day life, maybe even transitioning and homesickness, but also careers and like everything past, and then even on summer breaks, how much support you, even on like school breaks, how much support you have. Another thing I would really emphasize is to really think about fit. Which university is best for you, not just which university looks the best in like rankings, whichever rankings you're looking at, because it has to kind of have the whole package, which would be the most ideal for your circumstances. So if that includes like location, the academic flexibility, the clubs on campus, the weather, or other factors like that. One thing I didn't mention that I would like to include is that in DC, there's something for everybody in the city. There are a lot of free things to do, like the Smithsonian museums and like movies and night market type places as well. But you can also really easily get into like Maryland and Virginia for like more of nature, like outdoor type vibes. So that like like the DC, Maryland, Virginia area has like everything. So those are some of the factors that I would really emphasize. And regardless of like what curriculum you're coming from in high school, try to apply to a variety of colleges if you're able to, keeping in mind like which are your safeties, your targets, and your reach schools. But the most important thing is just if you feel like you could see yourself like thriving there as a person, not just as a student. And try not to focus too much on like rankings, of course. If it really resonates with you, that's great, but try to focus more on what you want, rather than like what society might pressure you to. So yeah.
I really agree with Annika said. Yeah, don't focus too much on rankings. Really choose where you see yourself studying, and also where you see yourself working in, because once you graduate from university, you'll probably like stay where you are. We'll have like you get to see how it's like to live there. So yeah, I think also choosing where you want to work in is a really important factor. Um, I also think academic opportunities are really important. So is the university good for your major? What support will I get from this university? And another factor is diversity. So I feel like it's really important to be so you don't feel left out, so you also don't feel like you're homesick. And yeah.
Yeah, I think one piece of advice would be to really think about your future. I think I speak for a lot of the students, not for all who are here, but like if you're not sure about what you really want to do, try to pick a course that would allow you to still go to that direction, but will still open you up to other career opportunities. So that's really what I thought when I went to Germany. I mean, before Germany, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a doctor. Now that's different. 3 years later, and I want to go to research. But then I have no regrets, because even though I still want to go to med in the future, I know I didn't close that road yet, and I could still go that way if I choose to. And I think another factor is also the support system, especially with the height of the pandemic. Um, I think the support systems that were available on campus were very helpful to many of the students, not only to me. Like if there are counselors on campus, if you have friends on campus. For us, insurance even covers mental health issues, which was a really big thing for us. And yeah, I think just the support system is a really big factor.
Everyone pretty much said what I was gonna say, but just to add, I really think that hearing from other people as well, their reviews from these universities, how what they experience. Do you think you'll like what their lifestyle there? I also look at the sorry. I also look at the things that I have to consider for my future. My dad would always remind me before actually applying to UNAV. He would go, "Do you see yourself in Spain in the next 10 years, 5 years?" You really have to imagine your pathway for yourself, and you have to really think about it and pray about it a lot, because it's a big move, especially if you're moving abroad. It's a whole different world, a whole different culture. And luckily for me, I knew that I wanted to be in a university and study in a place where I can get access to a lot of connections and actually experience a lot of internships and other activities to meet people. So yeah, that's what I usually just think about.
For me, I think my main tip is to apply with intent. When you apply, you should see yourself actually living there, studying there, and not just applying for the sake of applying. You should apply because you want to apply. And the main factors that someone should have when deciding for a certain school is definitely location. Because are you willing to be 15 hours away from your family and friends, juggling with a different time zone? Or would you rather be 2 hours away or having the same time zone with your parents? So it really depends on you as a person and how you could handle it, because everyone has different capabilities and everyone has different preferences in what they really want. And also, I really would highly encourage you to apply because of your course, not because of the name of the school. Because a lot of people that I personally know think that UBC is considered a backup school, but it's not. It's because they could accept a lot of people since it's a really, really big school. But if you look at the course wise, the rankings are quite high depending on what course you take. So the course is really what you really are gonna take, not the name of the school. So you do it for yourself, not for other people, like what Anagha said. And lastly, what really resonated with me was my gut, because when I was supposed to go to Hong Kong, but my gut wasn't right. There's just something off. So you should also trust your instincts if you really feel comfortable with the idea of living there, because some people could just say, oh yeah, I'm gonna go there, but your gut still feels off. So when you really go dive and commit, you should be 110% committed, and there's like no room for feeling iffy or anything. You just really want to go there on your own, not because of your parents or friends, just because of you and what you really want as a person. So I think those are my main tips.
So, in relation to what the other panelists mentioned, I think it's definitely important to check if a university cares for its students, because you need to feel at home and you're going to spend many years of your life there. Especially as an international student, you definitely want to be in a place that watches over you and makes sure that you're not only growing academically, but also in other aspects of your life. So, when evaluating your university of choice, you should look into the programs that they have for international students, especially like residential support, mental health services, and even like cultural programs, and see if these are easily accessible and if they ensure that these students are aware that these programs exist. And of course, you have to, like what was mentioned earlier, assess if the university offers the degree that you want and find out what makes this university's program better than that of other universities, and really evaluate this based on your future plans. And I think you just really have to know why you want to go to this certain university and consider your own needs before anything else.
Thank you so much to all of the panelists for answering that question. That concludes our panel today. I'm sure you also have many questions, but unfortunately, we're at the end of our time together. If you want to contact our speakers directly, you can reach them through their respective email addresses, which the speakers can share in the chat addressed to everyone if they're comfortable with being contacted. So we'll give you guys a few seconds to do that. Again, please make sure to address it to everyone if you are comfortable with the participants emailing you. All right, great. Thank you so much to our panelists and to our participants as well. We hope you all learned something new, and we'll see you at our next event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.